The fancy word for shot types is proxemics, which refers to the implied distance between the camera and the subject. So a close-up implies that the camera is close to the subject because the subject is so large within the camera's viewing area. A medium shot is a medium distance, a long shot is a longer distance, etc. Of course, certain lenses allow a camera to film a close-up of a subject standing a few hundred feet away, so we always have to keep in mind that we're talking about implied distance. The idea of distance between the viewer, the camera, and the subject of that view is important to a central aspect of shot type usage and meaning, the whole idea of significance. Like most elements of cinematic language, shot types play off the way people instinctively process and react to visual information in their own non-movie watching lives. When we're sitting in a dark movie theater, we unconsciously identify with the viewpoint of the camera, which has replaced our own viewpoint. In other words, the viewer identifies with the lens. And in our everyday lives, when someone is right up close to us and as a result dominates our field of vision, we perceive them as typically more significant, whether we're attracted to them or afraid of them, which is one of the reasons filmmakers typically use a close-up at the moment in the scene that demands the greatest dramatic impact. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Shot types are one of the many tools that filmmakers use to imply significance, convey information and meaning, shape the unfolding drama, elicit emotional responses from the audience, and communicate character state of mind. Shots are classified in terms of amount of general or background information in each shot, amount of specific or subject information in the shot, the size or portion of the human figure in the shot, the implied significance of the subject, psychological subject information, and physical subject information. Let's start wide and work our way in. The extreme long shot is dominated by background information. Specific subject information typically takes up very little screen space. In fact, if there is a specific human subject, he or she is usually too small to recognize by anything other than context. Extreme long shots are handy for establishing general locales, as opposed to specific locations, depicting a character dwarfed by his or her environment, and depicting large-scale action in which masses of figures function as a sort of collective subject. The long shot is a kind of who, what, and where shot. It's often used as an establishing shot at the beginning or end of a scene because it tends to balance specific subject information with general location and background information, and is handy for establishing who is in a scene, where everyone is in relation to everybody else, where the action is taking place, and what is going on in the situation. The subject or subjects are now large enough in frame to read enough physical and psychological detail to at least be recognizable. A full shot frames the human subject basically from head to toe. Background is now beginning to be reduced. The subject conveys more physical and psychological detail and is growing large enough to dominate the frame, and thus take on significance. A scene will typically cut to a full shot at moments when physical action and figure movement is featured, such as fights, embraces, and physical comedy. The medium-long shot, or American shot, frames the subject from the knees up and falls somewhere between the full and medium shot in terms of both the way it looks and the way it is used. The medium shot frames subjects from somewhere around the waist up, leaving just enough room in the frame for 2, maybe 3 characters. Now the subject is getting big enough in the frame to reduce background to the point of insignificance. We can read increasingly subtle psychological and physical information on the increasingly dominant and thus significant subject. Medium shots are often used to convey interaction between on-screen characters, and as an editing bridge between a long shot and a close-up. A close-up is pure subject. Background information is virtually eliminated. A single face dominates the frame. The face, and even its most subtle shift in expression, takes on monumental significance. For this reason, close-ups are typically used to punctuate important, dramatic moments. An extreme close-up is, well, a more extreme version of the close-up, filling the frame with just a fragment of the face, or oftentimes an object revealed in great physical detail. When the extreme close-up enlarges a normally small object to monumental proportions, it can be used for a couple of interesting and useful cinematic functions. When presented in the right context, an extreme close-up anticipates the use of an object. If an object is isolated and presented with great implied significance, the audience knows, or at least senses, that the object is important and will be used in some significant manner. The resulting expectation can be employed to generate suspense. In another context, the implied significance an extreme close-up gives an object can give symbolic value to that object. For example, in this scene from John Ford's The Grapes of Wrath, a mother sorts the last of her shabby possessions in preparation for leaving the land her family has farmed for generations. Isolated and enlarged in an extreme close-up, this little ceramic dog transcends its tacky souvenir surface meaning to communicate symbolic meaning of long-gone, prosperous, and carefree times, and serves as a poignant counterpoint to the family's current desperation.